if a lot of these platforms existed when we were kids, all the filmmakers that we look to now as like these icons, they would have been uploading to those platforms too.
Hi, Chris. I'm Kristen Maldonado from Pop Culture Planet. I'm also a critic who got their start on YouTube, so it's really awesome to speak with you today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Shelby Oaks has been years in the making. It's also one of the most crowd-funded horror films ever. So, what made this the story that was like the right one for your feature debut, and how did it feel to get that support?
And it felt incredible. It was very I was leery to launch a campaign because I had never really been at that guy who says like, can you please help me with something? Please give me money, whatever. I've never done that. It's not my yeah, it just made me feel uncomfortable. I really like the idea of putting out stuff and just letting people watch it and getting out of their way. Asking people for money was tough. But once we kind of realized that we could approach the campaign from the idea of like, if you join us on this journey, you're going to get behind the scenes videos of the whole production. Every single week, we had BTS videos that were shot on set that people could watch while we were making the movie in real time. And the idea was like, let's get a little mini independent film school going on here for people to join and sort of see what it's like to make an indie movie from the ground up. And that was really great. Um, as far as this being my first movie, I think that, I've written about eight or nine spec scripts at this point, and this was the one that I just kept meeting with people and pitching, and this was the one that just kept rising to the top of the pile. And when you've got nothing to your name in regards to film scripts and trying to get a film made, whatever's getting the most heat, you're going to follow that heat.
You've spent years as one of YouTube's most respected film critics. So, what lessons from analyzing other movies shaped the way that you approached directing your own?
I've always in my mind been trying to get a film made ever since I was 14. And so every time I would see a film, doesn't matter if I was going to review it or I was just watching it just to watch it, I was always looking for some form of inspiration that I could take from that to apply to myself, whether it was, okay, this person got a film made. What am I doing sitting down? I need to go get started on that script. Or, a life lesson from a movie that made my life feel better. Because I've said this before, but like I do think that movies are my religion and the theater is my church. And so I go there to learn. I want to be inspired. I want to walk out of there and feel like a rejuvenated, better person. Um, and so I think for me, every movie that we've ever seen before is for me in some way it's like, okay, this got me one step closer to finally getting something made because I just didn't want to give up. And now still when I just went and saw a movie last night and I'm walking out of the theater, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get back on set again. I need to get back on set making something.
This film blends documentary style, found footage, classic narrative. What inspired you to take on all those different styles, and how did you make them feel cohesive together?
I think the first initial thought was, of course, like what I think most filmmakers in that early stage of like, I don't have any money and how am I going to get this done? You're thinking about budget and efficiency. You're thinking like, is there a way I can cheaply shoot a movie? And the first idea ever for Shelby Oaks was that my wife and I were just going to shoot it ourselves for like, $15,000, $20,000 and just put it on YouTube and not even look for distribution. And so that's kind of how it started was like, we were tired of waiting, really. We were tired of waiting for some powerful person in Hollywood to reach out and be like, you have been blessed with the ability to now make a movie. We didn't want that. But it kept getting bigger and bigger, which is why the campaign eventually happened because the ideas just kept coming. But I do think that like a lot of filmmakers, and I know I do this, we kind of look for excuses not to make something. We look for all of the reasons why, well, maybe we shouldn't go down this path or this isn't what would be expected of me and how will this affect my career or maybe I don't jive with this story perfectly. And for Shelby, I had a lot of those thoughts, of course, initially, and it just became like a thing where I was like, I hear this a lot with I have friends who are thinking about having kids, for instance, and they keep saying, well, I'm just not ready. And I've always thought to myself, when are you ever really ready to do anything? Because life constantly throws things at us we weren't ready for. And in the moment, we have to adjust and figure out how to keep going. And I was in that place with movies. I was like, well, I'm just not, I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out one day. And once I realized that I was like actively pushing it off, I don't know why, but as soon as I kind of acknowledged that, I was like, no, 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 we gotta go. We gotta make something now.
Wow, I mean, that's amazing. And I think to be able to see how it's grown since is just really cool because I do think that YouTube is such a great platform to allow people to put their things out there and get it seen and, turn it into something else. So, for people who maybe feel like that line of YouTube and Hollywood is starting to blur, like what would you tell other creators hoping to kind of follow that path?
I love that question. This has been very important to me over the years because I have very much so experienced the sort of stigma of YouTubers aren't real critics, YouTubers aren't real press, YouTubers aren't real filmmakers. That's a thing I'm sure you've experienced too.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in another interview, but from 2009 to 2015, 6 years of making videos, I didn't get into a single press screening. I didn't get reserved seats at anything. I never got invited to events, no DVD screeners, no screener links, nothing. It took until I think it was Force Awakens, Star Wars, where I actually got into a press screening, and it was really crazy to be able to experience that. And it is because there are a lot of people in Hollywood who like the way things are. And things like YouTube, things like TikTok were challenging how the way things were. And there had to be people who were like, all right, fine. Yes, fine. We'll invite some of these people. Clearly they have an audience. And I think it's the same for movies. I think that when people like the Philippo brothers who've done Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, or Joe Penna who's did Arctic and Stowaway, Curry Barker has a movie coming out, Obsession. There's this sense of, okay, I see you guys, I think. Maybe you can be invited to the party. I don't know. We'll see. But I also think that it's generational. I think that in the future, most new filmmakers will have been on some kind of social platform of some kind. It's pretty much impossible to avoid.
I agree. To your point, like, I have also been creating since 2013, and it took me till the pandemic to, finally kind of make it through that door. And I love what you said about just like how moving forward, it's probably going to be these creators that we're seeing online that are going to be the future of filmmaking. Because how else are you breaking that mold to get out there and get your work out there? It makes me think of the guy who created the short for the Fresh Prince of Bel Air and how they were able to turn that into a whole incredible series.
That's exactly right. And I think that if a lot of these platforms existed when we were kids, all the filmmakers that we look to now as like these icons, they would have been uploading to those platforms too.
100%. And horror fans are known for catching all those little hidden details, all those little hidden meanings. Are there any Easter eggs or stylistic nods in Shelby Oaks that genre lovers might want to look out for?
There's quite a bit of like actual hidden things on screen in this movie. I would say somewhere around 10 to 15. I don't want to say what it is, but there are a lot of things in the background throughout the whole film for people to find, whether or not they see some of them in the theater or not, or on Blu-ray later on or on streaming. It was fun for me to find ways to play around with that and try to find some hidden things in there that we could incorporate. And it's not they're not out, they're not entirely just for fun. There are a few things that are actually like story elements that are sort of in the background where if people do find them eventually they'll unlock a new aspect to the story that I think will be really fun for people. Um, and I just think that's like in here. I remember my mom was when I was young, my mom took me to the library and she showed me how those microfiche machines work that sift through the old newspaper articles. And being an X-Files fan as a kid, we immediately went to the 1947 Roswell, New Mexico UFO incident thing. And we looked at all the headlines of that year and we saw people who were freaking out about UFOs and whether or not flying saucers were real. And I think that need to like research the past and find hidden things has always been prevalent in my brain ever since.
I love that. I mean, I think that just means we all need to watch the movie over and over again to find all those little details.
That would be great.
So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and congratulations.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Consider subscribing if you like this video and get even more entertainment news at popcultureplanet.com. See ya!